Johnson's speech pattern, and which was familiar to my ear at this time from hearing it and so forth.
For years, Jack Nicholson was Hollywood's ultimate wild card. That devilish grin, that rebel spirit that flipped the industry upside down. But when the lights went off and the applause faded, Jack's charm hid grudges darker than any role he ever played. At 88, he finally cracked open the silence, revealing what really brewed behind the curtain of success. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more shocking old-school Hollywood stories. Now let's get straight into it. 6 names. That's how many Jack called out. Some were icons, others close friends. But all of them, he said, crossed the line from respect to straight-up hatred, and today, we're uncovering those legends he despised and the reasons he could never forgive them. Number 1. Marlon Brando, the idol who became the ultimate betrayal. Jack Nicholson never imagined that the man he once worshipped would turn out to be his biggest disappointment. Marlon Brando, the hero, the genius, the acting god who inspired a whole generation, including Jack himself. But when they teamed up for the Missouri Breaks back in 1976, that dream partnership turned into a nightmare. Nicholson showed up ready to give everything, sharp, focused, and eager to go toe-to-toe with his idol. But Brando? He walked on set like he couldn't care less. Overweight, disconnected, barely even trying. He refused to memorize lines, instead plastering cue cards everywhere. On lamps, tables, even taped to crew members' foreheads. What was supposed to be a legendary collaboration turned into pure chaos. Nicholson was furious. He once snapped, "Genius doesn't excuse laziness. A genius who doesn't care is just a fraud." He didn't hold back, and Brando's antics didn't stop there. He started slipping into random Irish accents mid-scene, leaving everyone confused. Then came the weird costumes, bonnets, dresses, whatever bizarre thing he could find. To Nicholson, this wasn't creativity, it was sabotage. Every day on that set felt like Brando was playing games for his own amusement, while everyone else struggled to keep the movie alive. The air was thick with tension. No one dared cross either of them. Nicholson, once thrilled to share the screen with his hero, ended up just trying to save his own performance from the wreckage of Brando's circus. When the film finally dropped, it bombed, and so did their friendship. Nicholson never forgave him. He still respected Brando's early brilliance, but he swore he'd never share a set with him again. What once began as admiration ended in bitter silence, and Jack never looked back. For Jack, the lesson hit hard. Sometimes the idols you worship end up being the ones who break your faith the most. And that realization came with scars that never really faded. Number 2, Shelley Duvall, the co-star who pushed Nicholson to the edge. On the haunting set of The Shining in 1980, Jack Nicholson's fury wasn't aimed at director Stanley Kubrick. It was locked on his on-screen wife, Shelley Duvall. Jack needed balance, someone who could match his fire, keep up with his rhythm, and hold her ground beside him. But instead of calm, he found chaos. Kubrick's obsession with perfection meant endless takes, sometimes over 100 shots for one scene. Everyone was on edge, but Shelley's fragile state turned the set into emotional warfare. One moment, she'd deliver raw, spine-chilling brilliance. The next, she'd crumble, leaving her performance hanging by a thread. Jack later admitted, "As an actor, you need a dance partner." With Shelley, it felt like she was hearing a different song. That line said it all. What began as sympathy for her quickly turned into frustration. Jack thrived on precision. Every gesture, every pause meant something. But Shelley's emotional swings threw everything off balance. Scenes that were meant to feel connected turned into draining battles that left him exhausted and alone. He later confessed that her instability made an already brutal job almost impossible. Yet decades later, Jack softened his stance. With time and clarity, he realized Kubrick's merciless direction had pushed Shelley to her breaking point. "What Stanley did to her was cruel," he said, his tone heavy with regret. Still, the memory of those long, torturous days stayed with him forever. The movie became a masterpiece, but it was built on the ruins of trust between two actors who gave everything and left pieces of themselves behind. Number 3. Tom Cruise, the superstar Nicholson called empty. When Jack faced off with Tom Cruise in A Few Good Men back in 1992, the world saw cinematic electricity. Their courtroom showdown birthed one of the most iconic lines in movie history. "You can't handle the truth." The crowd went wild, critics raved, and the film became a classic. But behind the scenes, Nicholson wasn't celebrating. What the world saw as chemistry, Jack saw as emptiness. He built his career on risk, thriving on scenes that felt dangerous, moments where anything could explode. But standing across from Cruise, he didn't feel that spark. Every move Cruise made looked rehearsed. Every smile seemed staged. Every line too perfect. There was no unpredictability, no chaos, just control. Jack later sneered, "You look in his eyes and you see the machinery working. It's perfect and it's empty." That judgment cut deep. To Nicholson, acting was about truth, messy, wild, unpredictable truth. But Cruise, he believed, treated it like an image exercise, a performance polished to the point of lifelessness. From the outside, it was flawless, but for Jack, it was missing the danger that made acting real. Jack never minced words when it came to Tom Cruise. Their clash went way beyond A Few Good Men. Behind the Hollywood smiles and red carpet photos, there was real tension brewing between the legend and the rising star. After A Few Good Men wrapped, insiders whispered that Jack left the set with a bitter taste in his mouth. Sure, the movie was a hit, but he didn't walk away impressed. Jack was used to actors who brought danger, who lived in the moment and took risks. But with Cruise, he felt like he was staring at a mirror polished too clean. No cracks, no chaos, just control. People close to the production recalled Jack venting after takes, saying things like, "He's got the moves, but no soul in it." It wasn't jealousy, it was disappointment. Jack respected drive, but he hated when an actor played it safe. And to him, Cruise's obsession with perfection killed the magic. The two barely spoke once the cameras stopped rolling. While Cruise went on to conquer Hollywood with massive blockbusters, Jack quietly distanced himself. He admired Tom's discipline, sure, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something vital was missing. That fire, that unpredictability that separates the good from the great, Jack believed Cruise didn't have it. As Cruise's fame exploded, their paths crossed again at Hollywood events, but Jack kept his cool. He'd nod, smile, even share a quick word for the cameras, but once the flashes stopped, he was done. Those who saw it up close said there was always a strange chill between them. Mutual respect on the surface, but no real warmth underneath. And it wasn't just personal, it was artistic. Jack came from an era where actors bled for their roles, where every scene was a war zone of emotion. Cruise, on the other hand, represented the new Hollywood. Clean, commercial, and carefully managed. To Nicholson, that shift was the death of raw acting. In one rare interview years later, when asked about younger stars, Jack gave a half smile and said, "Some of them are too busy protecting their image to lose themselves in the work." Fans knew exactly who he meant. The irony? Tom Cruise idolized Nicholson. He often praised Jack as one of the greats, the kind of performer who could steal a scene with a single glance. But admiration doesn't always go both ways. Jack's verdict on Cruise never softened. He respected the man's hustle, but not his heart. To Jack, Cruise was the perfect machine, flawless, polished, unstoppable, but soulless at the core. That spark, the raw thrill that made acting worth it, was gone. Even during their most iconic face-off, that fiery courtroom clash in A Few Good Men, Jack felt nothing but frustration. He gave everything in that scene, hurling every ounce of fury and energy he had straight at Tom Cruise, hoping to break through that perfect mask and see something real burst out. But what came back? Just rehearsed lines, clean, calculated, and polished, until there was no trace of life left. Jack later compared it to listening to a studio track when all he wanted was the sweat and chaos of a live concert. It wasn't personal, it was spiritual. Acting to him was about truth in the mess, not perfection in the mirror. After production wrapped, Nicholson didn't hold back when talking to friends. He admitted he respected Cruise's work ethic. The man was a machine, but he swore he'd never share a set with him again. "We're just wired different," he said. "He chases perfection, I chase danger." And that was it. Two philosophies colliding with no middle ground. Jack walked away convinced that no matter the fame or success, he and Cruise could never truly connect as artists. Number 4. Faye Dunaway, the actress who crushed Nicholson's dream. The film that was supposed to define Jack's career as a director, The Two Jakes, ended up breaking him instead, and the person at the center of it all was Faye Dunaway. Their reunion was supposed to feel like magic, a nostalgic return to the chemistry they shared in Chinatown. But what Jack got instead was war. From day one, the set felt like a battlefield. Nicholson, who usually commanded total control, suddenly found himself going head-to-head with a co-star who refused to play by his rules. Faye showed up late, argued over scenes, rewrote her lines, and challenged every decision Jack made. He was already juggling the stress of directing, writing, and starring, and her resistance pushed him to the edge. One day, he finally snapped, shouting, "This isn't collaboration, it's sabotage." That one word, sabotage, summed up all his rage. The trust between them was gone, the respect shattered, and the dream project that was meant to cement his legacy as a filmmaker went up in flames. When the film finally hit theaters, it flopped hard, and Jack walked away from directing forever. What should have been his proudest achievement became the wound he never fully healed from. Number 5. Sean Penn, the director who suffocated Nicholson. If there's one thing Jack hated, it was being told how to act. And that's exactly what happened on the set of The Pledge in 2001. Sean Penn, the man behind the camera, wasn't just directing. He was controlling. Every pause, every breath, every flicker of emotion had to be done his way. To Jack, it felt like a cage. He didn't feel like an actor. He felt like a puppet. Penn's obsession with gritty realism drained the freedom right out of the process. What should have been collaboration turned into suffocation. Jack played the part with his usual brilliance, but behind the scenes, he was furious, saying it felt like his instincts were being strangled one take at a time. For a man who built his career on danger and improvisation, being micromanaged by another actor-turned-director was the ultimate insult, and it left a mark he'd never forget. Nicholson later snapped, "What's the point of hiring Jack Nicholson if you want a puppet?" That one line said everything. It wasn't just frustration. It was fury boiling under the surface. For decades, Jack had built his entire craft on instinct, on raw energy, on the thrill of discovering something wild and unexpected right there in front of the camera. But with Sean Penn calling the shots, there was no space for that, not even a breath of freedom. Every scene felt trapped, like he was acting inside a locked cage. Every creative impulse got smothered before it could breathe. Jack once compared the experience to running a marathon with your feet tied together, a brutal metaphor that showed exactly how tortured that shoot became. Sure, The Pledge got critical praise. People called it haunting, powerful, and deep. But for Jack, it came at a price. He walked off that set drained, stripped of the chaos that made acting exciting. He didn't care about the reviews. He cared about the rush, the danger, the magic of the unknown, and Penn had ripped that away. After The Pledge, the two men never worked together again. And Jack never looked back. To him, Penn's talent as a director could never balance the suffocation he inflicted. It wasn't hate. It was disappointment from one artist who lived for freedom to another who demanded control. Number 6. Leonardo DiCaprio, the star Nicholson said was too safe. By 2006, Jack was already a Hollywood legend when he teamed up with Leonardo DiCaprio in Martin Scorsese's The Departed. The result? Explosive on-screen chemistry that turned the movie into an instant classic. Nicholson's Frank Costello was pure chaos, unpredictable, dangerous, magnetic. Meanwhile, DiCaprio's Billy Costigan was tight, tense, and calculated. Two different worlds colliding under Scorsese's watch. To the audience, their dynamic looked electric, but behind the scenes, Jack had his doubts. He called Leo too safe, saying he respected the kid's dedication, but couldn't feel that raw unpredictability he lived for. Jack thrived on danger. He wanted every take to feel like a live grenade about to go off. DiCaprio, on the other hand, came to set fully armed with preparation. Detailed notes, mapped out gestures, even specific eye movements. Jack would mutter to crew members, "He's done his homework, but there's no danger. You can see every brick he built." That difference exploded during one unforgettable moment. In a tense scene, Nicholson shocked everyone when he suddenly pulled out a real gun. Completely unscripted. The entire set froze. Scorsese didn't yell cut. He kept rolling, and the fear flashing across DiCaprio's face was 100% real. For Nicholson, that was acting, creating truth by forcing the moment to come alive. But for Leo, it crossed a line. He saw it as reckless, even a breach of trust. From that moment, the generational divide between them was undeniable. Jack came from the old school, trained under Sanford Meisner, living by the rule of truth in the moment. Leo came from the new, methodical, precise, and careful. To Jack, it felt like art had traded danger for discipline, and that loss left him cold. Even though The Departed went on to win Oscars and cement its place in film history, Nicholson walked away, knowing one thing for sure. He'd never stop chasing chaos, even in a world that preferred to play it safe. For Jack, Leonardo DiCaprio represented the new face of Hollywood, polished, intelligent, and impossibly controlled. He respected Leo's hustle, no doubt about it. The kid worked hard, studied deep, and carried himself like someone who knew the weight of every scene. But for Nicholson, that precision came with a cost. It killed the danger. Jack once said privately, "Leo's got talent, sure, but he's too clean. He won't let the mess in." To Nicholson, acting wasn't about being perfect. It was about being alive. And that's where he felt DiCaprio just didn't go far enough. On The Departed, Nicholson was the wild card no one could predict. One minute, he was joking with the crew. The next, he was terrifying everyone with an improvised stunt that never made the script. He'd whisper, "Let's make them sweat a little," before stepping into a scene. That was his style. Chaos is art. DiCaprio, on the other hand, approached every frame like a surgeon. He'd rehearse quietly in corners, running his lines until they were razor sharp. The result looked flawless, but to Jack, it lacked the spark that made acting electric. Crew members recalled moments when Nicholson would deliberately change dialogue mid-scene, just to throw DiCaprio off balance and force something real. Sometimes it worked. Leo would react instinctively, fire flashing in his eyes. But other times, he'd freeze, clearly trying to stay in control. Jack found that hesitation frustrating. He believed a real actor should bleed for the moment, not protect it. During one late-night shoot, Nicholson reportedly told a friend, "He's got the look, the brains, and the charm, but he's still scared to fall on his face. That's where the truth hides." Still, Jack couldn't deny DiCaprio's commitment. The kid showed up ready to go every single day, never complained, never cracked under pressure. In that sense, Jack admired him. He even said once, "Leo's the kind of actor a director dreams about, but not the kind I like to fight with." That line summed it up perfectly. Nicholson thrived on the fight, the energy, the danger of not knowing what would happen next. And Leo? He thrived on precision, control, and calculated emotion. Their chemistry on screen was real because it came from that tension. Two different worlds colliding, both trying to dominate the moment. After The Departed, DiCaprio spoke highly of Nicholson in interviews, calling him one of the greatest to ever step in front of a camera. But Jack stayed quiet. He wasn't one for flattery, especially when he felt misunderstood. Years later, when asked about Leo, Jack simply said, "He's got everything this business rewards, but sometimes the reward is the problem." That cryptic comment said it all. To Nicholson, DiCaprio symbolized what modern Hollywood had become: flawless, professional, safe. DiCaprio belonged to a new kind of Hollywood, built on precision, control, and discipline. It wasn't wrong, just different. But when you threw that mix in with Nicholson's unpredictable energy, it was like oil and water, both brilliant in their own ways, yet completely unable to blend. Jack respected Leo's craft. The man was sharp, dedicated, and a total professional. But what he never felt was the soul, that dangerous spark that made the work feel alive. When filming wrapped, Jack didn't sugarcoat it. He told friends, "The kid's great, but he's too safe for my blood." That was it. Respect without connection. Their relationship stayed distant after that. DiCaprio, always the gentleman, spoke highly of Jack in interviews, calling him a legend and a force of nature. But Nicholson's view never softened. He admired Leo's talent, sure, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something wild was missing. When The Departed went on to win Best Picture, the world celebrated, but for Nicholson, the victory tasted bitter. He saw the trophies, the praise, the glory, yet deep down, it felt hollow. To him, even success meant nothing if the process didn't carry danger, trust, and raw emotion. 6 names, 6 battles, and one unshakable truth. Jack Nicholson never forgot the ones who broke his code. From idols who let him down to co-stars who drained the life out of a scene. Each clash left a mark on him and changed how he saw Hollywood forever. So, what do you think? Was Jack being brutally honest? Or just too hard on legends like Brando, Cruise, and DiCaprio? Did he demand too much? Or was he the last of a dying breed who lived for realness over reputation? Drop your thoughts down below. We want to know what side you're on. And if you're hooked on these untold stories from Hollywood's most secret corners, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, share with your friends, and tap the bell so you never miss what's coming next. See you in the next video.